Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our podcast, Web3 and Chill. As usual, I'm your host, Ayush, joined with Vishal. And today we have with us Paula Marie, who is the head of partnership at PhygitalTwins. Hi, Paula, how are you?
Hi.
Where are you based out of?
So I'm in Dublin, Ireland today. I'm actually in the university. So I'm a Web3 brand activation strategist and I'm a lecturer at TU Dublin, Ireland. So I teach classes in Web3, retail innovation, metaverses, AR marketing, that kind of thing. So my students are enjoying themselves now because I gave them a big fat assignment so I can come join you guys.
Wow, that's great. And I apologize to the students because just because of the podcast, maybe you guys are doing an assignment. So, taking the podcast forward, what is Phygital Twins and why do we need it?
Okay, so PhygitalTwins. Well, I'm working for a company called PhygitalTwin. It's an on-demand sustainable Web3 design platform. And what we do is we create digital fashion for influencers in Web2. So we recently launched with Dr. Robin, who's an influencer, and we created the first ever athleisure collection, both physical and digital. So you can buy the physical item, which comes with an NFT smart contract, which is a viable, sellable, tradable asset that lives in a blockchain. And then you can also try on the AR wearable, or you can send us your picture and we will render the digital outfit onto your body. So we basically digitally twin clothing. So we create clothing for in real life, clothing for avatars, and then clothing for your Instagram account through AR.
Okay, so it's like, let's say I'm buying a piece of clothing offline, I get the NFT for that, and let's say if I'm in some metaverse or my avatar, it can wear it as well. Is that the concept?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's really
That's
interesting.
that's amazing. So you have been in the space of virtual fashion and digital twin for a long time.
Mhm.
What do you think? What is the market size today, and how it is expected to grow in the next 5 years?
Well, I suppose really digital fashion or digital fashion, the market say I think it's like 24.3 million, and that includes like AR mostly and virtual try-ons. And then I think I read by like 2027 it's going to be worth 2.6 trillion. So, or sorry, billion. So we know that like VR, AR, we know that e-commerce and on-demand sustainability, all those kind of trends are coming through fashion. So we know that the customer in the future is looking for, a more sustainable fashion. And we know that, I'm a big fan of Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City. She says, oh, I like to see my money, or I like to have my money where I can see it hanging in my physical closet. But I've changed it to Figital because I believe I'm not going to buy fashion anymore unless it's sustainable and unless it's buyable, sellable, tradable. So all those digital wearables that I have, NFTs, I hope to buy, sell, and trade them in the future. So I think AR, e-commerce, shopping, and plus with
I think we lost your voice for a while.
I still can't hear her.
Hey, uh, Paula,
Paula,
we can't hear you.
we can't hear you. Uh-huh. No. Can you hear us? Can't hear you. No, no. So we were hearing you and suddenly your voice stopped. I mean, while you were explaining things back then. No, can't hear you. Nothing. Like, not even a noise signal.
I think she also can't hear us.
Or she can hear us. Um,
No, no, we can't hear you.
I'll,
Mm,
I'll pause the recording meanwhile.
can you remove the other one?
okay, we're back.
Yeah. So yeah, we are talking about how this market is going to grow in the next 5 years.
Yes. So yeah, so I was just saying that the market currently is worth 24.3 million, and we hope by 2027 that the market will be worth 2.6 billion by 2007. So we know because of COVID and digital rapid transformation and AR and VR and e-commerce and sustainable brands, that digital fashion will become the thing because people are interested in virtual try-ons, they're interested in exploring new types of fashion products and services, people are interested in owning their own fashion and being part of co-creation, hyper-personalization. So this is definitely going to help brands interact with their customer in Web3 through these new technologies.
Got it, got it. So I think my first moment of into the virtual fashion was with Fortnite Balenciaga, and because I play Fortnite, I was introduced to that.
Mhm.
And again, I had a urge to buy it, but I somehow did not buy it. But I saw a lot of players who are playing bought it, and it I think they did a huge campaign, and they also linked that to physical store, physical products, and they got a lot of sales from that. So
Mm.
because you are also so close to this area, what do you think is the key motivator for a consumer to opt for a product that is a physical product versus any standard product today? What is that key motivator or key delight
Mm.
factor for a consumer?
Okay, so what would be the motivation for someone to buy a phygital rather than a physical item, you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I well, for us, not all phygital items come with smart contracts, right? So for me, I like to buy phygital NFTs, so I can buy, sell, and trade them. Even for my students, last year they huffed because they had to download MetaMask to get a free NFT from DressX. And I was trying to explain that, look, guys, when you have this NFT, in 10 years' time, you can sell it and it'll be worth a lot of money. So I think at the moment, really, the key motivation is novelty. And I think people are looking, they're kind of bored. They like gamified experiences. They want to know more about the brands. I think it's particularly at Digital Twin, the company that I work with, people want to be part of how their clothes are made. They like that whole on-demand vibe, and they like to be able to match their avatars. So I deliver a lot of my classes in spatial, and like we spent
Yeah, yeah,
last
I've
week,
seen that.
I'd say maybe 100 quid, 100 euros, on skins, just so we could rock up to an event that was there yesterday. I was doing AI in the metaverse and how they collaborate. And of course, my students are gone nuts now on Midjourney, so they all think they're designers apparently. So they like to play with creation, and these are retail guys, right? So
Yeah.
they're very curious about new assets and owning things and creating things, and AI allows them to do that. So yeah.
Got it, got it. That exciting. Uh, Also, today we have seen a couple of brands like Balenciaga, I spoke of, Gucci, Louis Vuitton. They are launching apparel with its on-chain, I think, proof or with an NFT. So
Mhm.
again, in on from top of your mind, what is that one brand that is doing this really in the better way than everyone else, and why do you think like that?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the brands that are most confident would probably be the Gucci's. I mean, I think smart contracts add themselves to luxury brands anyway. So, you have the NFT for authenticity, provenance, and ownership, and then you've got the NFT for the fun stuff like rocking up in a metaverse, or loyalty points or the future of loyalty. Brands that are doing it well, yeah. I mean, it depends. It depends on what brand, right? If you're crypto brands, fashion brands like Bored Ape, they're monsters.
Yeah,
And we're all obsessed with them at the moment. They're just so aggressive. Like between, Kings, what was it, Kingship? They have their own band, and who did a collaboration with Eminem Smarties. And you can get it like my friend owns two Bored Apes, and he wants to like put them on handbags and all sorts of tracksuits and that kind of thing. Traditional fashion brands, who's doing it well? Yeah, probably Gucci, I would say. But I wouldn't say it's purely in metaverse. Web3, I'm not so sure. It really depends, guys, what the brands are using it for. If it's an NFT gated community or a free wearable. Um, I think they're all testing the waters. I can't really tell you. The Fabricant, right? But the Fabricant are a traditional fashion company. They're pure digital couture, and they're killing it in then of course you've got NFT collections like World of Women. Now
yeah.
we've an account with them. So fashion is kind of mad. Like it's not brand centric. It's kind of community centric maybe, or it's driven by this new business model like influencers, or so it's not traditional brands. I think you're really asking me which traditional brand is doing it the best. I'd have to say probably Gucci, because they're just so aggressive. I mean, they're not in Roblox, they're in Zepido, which is
Yeah,
the, you know, the Korean version. Yeah, I'd probably say Gucci. They're saturated. And then you have other brands then, you know, creating NFTs like Starbucks. And yeah, so it really depends on what kind of, but from a
got it.
traditional perspective, yeah, I'd say
Yeah,
Gucci.
from a
What would you?
traditional perspective, I wanted to know. Okay,
Digital, from a digital or traditional?
from
Traditional.
traditional. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, then Gucci then. My favorite
Yeah.
collection from them would be the Gucci Grail. So they did a collection with the top 12 NFT collections, and I thought their NFTs were savage. And you can get their NFTs in wearables as well, and you get them on physical goods. So yes, Gucci number one.
Got it, got it.
Thanks
Mm.
for answering that. For other fashion brands, not at the level of Gucci or an Armani, um,
Mm.
how can they use Web3 or Metaverse or NFT? I mean, NFTs are part of Web3
Mm.
in their ecosystem. Like, what are the use cases that they can look at?
So I suppose with any blockchain and metaverse use case, I think if you're talking about the fashion industry in general,
Yeah, fashion.
yeah, right. My favorites, I like DAOs, you know, these decentralized autonomous organizations, and these are quite disruptive because, you know, if we think about the society that we live in now, you know, Web 2 is created on centralized servers, Web 2 is created on monarchies and colonists, and how, you know, man's obsession with building communities, right? But now we've got DAOs, and DAOs have consensus mechanisms. And the way I see it is, even on the Zara supply chain in the future, I would like to be a Zara stakeholder. So I don't want to be a Zara customer. I want to be a Zara stakeholder. So I want to be part of the Zara DAO, where I get the chance to vote on what kind of products and services they make. So that to me would probably be the most exciting of all the Web3 protocols, not just necessarily NFTs or metaverse platforms for 3D shopping, if that makes sense. So I think DAOs are pretty cool. And even in terms of media DAOs, you know, I know Decrypt and Bankless, they have DAOs set up where they can vote on which content goes on the internet. So Web3 is extremely exciting, but highly disruptive. So it'll be very interesting to see what DAOs are going to
Yeah.
rock up as.
So,
No, I think essentially it's giving the power back to people like us. So I think
Yeah.
that's the best part.
Yeah, building communities by the people for the people. It's the same with those gaming metaverses like Sandbox. You know, the developers are working together, they're getting paid, they're making assets, we're making real estate. And I like the vibe of Web3. I think Web3 is it's full of creators. The creator economy, love that, because staking is the new following. So yeah, I want to put my money into projects that I like and that I'll probably get a dividend from. And then I have a say on what kind of content they make and what kind of assets they make. So yeah, but all about stakeholdership and Web3 and communities.
just
Yeah.
brainstorming with you on the Zara example. So there's a
Yeah.
DAO. Let's say Zara has, for example, has 1 million customers. Maybe less than 100 people will be part of the DAO. Let's say even 1,000, which is not a very significant percent of people. Now, are there any cases with Web3 and Metaverse that can impact a very larger audience?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, if we go back to, I suppose, NFTs. So NFTs give creators IP rights and monetization over their data and content. So I would believe that NFTs allow the creators to interact with the brands and create new products. So that, is that what you mean? In terms of, is that what you mean?
Sort of. I mean, the idea that I want to explore is, okay, Web3 is great. It's innovative, disruptive. But I have what I've seen is it only impacts a very smaller number of audience or a smaller proportion of audience. Will there be Web3 use case which maybe reaches almost every customer, or at least, huge chunk of customers? Because you mentioned DAO. DAO is, I mean, it's a very small community.
It's tiny.
Yeah.
I think the biggest use case, if you're asking me for the biggest use case in blockchain for retail and fashion, I would have to say the next time I go to Louis Vuitton store to buy a bag, I'm going to ask for the smart contract. That's no brainer. That's coming up immediately. So provenance, authenticity, and ownership. That's the most obvious mass market use case for luxury fashion that I can think of at the moment. That'll be mass adoption. I'm never going to buy a luxury good again. Huh?
That's luxury fashion,
Yes.
Gucci.
But something else.
Something a little more generic. Let's say there's a brand, there's a manufacturer in India, for example. It's known for its massy, cheaper products, not too expensive. How can that company use Web3? Just
Ah,
from
so we can talk
brainstorm.
about yeah. So we could talk about refi, regenerative finance.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe some of these manufacturing hubs need new technology, or there's a way which we could buy, we could tokenize the factory and raise money to update the factories and have the local people actually work together to build out these factories that are more sustainable. So I think it's called regenerative finance. Yeah, so it's a type of funding mechanism for, how will I say, supporting local manufacturing. That to me could be something that's quite worthwhile in terms of the manufacturing industry. I'm sure you guys are familiar with refi, right? Regenerative finance.
Yes. Why don't you explain it for our audience?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I suppose so tokenization can also work for funding. Yeah. So I can invest, let's say the Bangladesh factory had a company and I could invest tokens in it, and we improve the infrastructure of the manufacturing capability. And then let's say they discovered a brand new way of producing textiles that was cost effective. It's basically I'd be a stakeholder. So it's a method of financing a company to do better. So it's a type of, I suppose it's like social community, what do they call it? They call it CSR, but I call it community social responsibility, not corporate.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
refi, to be fair, is a fairly new one. It'd be the same thing as sending, tokens or cryptocurrencies to minorities who might not have internet or computers for girls, this kind of thing. So I think that's and everything is transparent, it's immutable, it's on the blockchain.
So rather than a company going public or doing an IPO for that factory in Bangladesh, they tokenize it, and people who
Yes.
love the brand, they would come in, buy those tokens, those NFTs, and
Yes.
sustain the brand. And later on, maybe
It's,
they can trade it if they want to.
yes, exactly.
Wow, that is really interesting.
Do you know what
Vishal,
I like though? There's another thing as well I think is cool about Web3. I think even in terms of, I know when we were talking about consensus mechanisms, like as a stakeholder of Zara, I can vote on I can vote against different types of factories, maybe that don't have their labor rights in order or are not supporting the local community, because there's transparency inside those consensus mechanisms. So I think the supply chain in fashion is going to be completely revolutionized by blockchain.
so I think even there are designers out there, and I have some friends who are designers.
Mm.
They could create their own NFTs or own DAOs, have their community and the community can come and help them to understand, hey, this is something that we want rather than whatever you're making. And that sounds pretty interesting.
Mm.
So, there are different metaverses out there. Just yesterday, we were talking to the founder of Superworld. I'm not sure if you've heard of that. Then there's Sandbox, there's Decentraland, etc.
Mm.
Let's say I like what Vishal is wearing. By the way, Vishal, I do like your shirt. So I want to buy that shirt. Hey, shirt comes to me, and now I want my digital avatar in a Decentraland and a Sandbox to wear the same shirt, or like whatever wardrobe I have in my house, I want a similar wardrobe or catalog for my digital twin. Is that possible right now? Do we see people moving towards that direction?
That's very interesting. So basically, we do have 3D modeling. So I think that the plans really for Digital Twin for us, we'll have the platform where you can go on, create your 3D model, the existing 3D models available for your avatar and for your IRL, and people will be able to go on and participate in hyper personalization and co-creation. Yes, I would like that to be voice activated. In the next, like, hey Siri, make me a 3D t-shirt with Starburst and donuts on it, and send it to the Indian supply chain.
Like chat GPT version of for generative clothing in metaverse.
Yes, if we're going to cross into the AI, I mean, like Mid-Journey and all those guys creating your own fashion, I do see it coming. Absolutely, people will rock up to a platform. There'll be 3D models there. They'll select them, or maybe they'll use an AI to generate some sort of form of the model. What's really interesting me about 3D modeling, since we're on the topic, I love the whole machine learning side of it. So I lived in China for 7.5 years, and I was a buyer. And I know everything about kind of what Chinese ladies want in terms of luxury goods. And I remember thinking to myself, like I know the difference between Chinese red and American red. I know that baby dragons aren't allowed. So I've got this knowledge about culture. And we've seen in the past that a lot of the brands suffer from cultural appropriation, whereby they're creating products that don't really suit the local market, and then the brand gets cancelled in China. So the whole idea of 3D modeling is giving the model to the consumer, fortifying machine learning, where the customers can actually train the model to suit the location of the product, and then the product is made then. So yeah, I'm a big fan of 3D modeling and on-demand goods
I
built by
think it
local communities.
I think it would be soon because we are already seeing Roblox launched generative AI for its platform, which does
Mm-hmm.
similar 3D environment creation through generative AI. So I think within
Fair.
month we'll see a
Yeah,
new tool which is doing this.
yeah. But it's really cool though, guys, that all the technologies are kind of, they're working together to create new products, and this kind of community driven products that you actually want, that you're actually part of, that you actually understand where they're coming from. And that's cool.
So from a, let's look at it from a different angle. There are a lot of people out there who want to be part of this Web3 journey, and the people who are maybe interested in fashion. What are the key skill sets or jobs out there which somebody who wants to be in Web3 and fashion can look
Mm.
at?
Well, there's Web3 and then there's Metaverse technology. You see, it really depends on the technology. If you say Web3, I'm thinking like blockchain, Solidity, and developing enterprise use cases. And then Metaverse is then I'm thinking more like AR, VR, virtual worlds, that kind of thing. So if you're talking about my gang, my students, they're AR marketers, they're brand activation kids. Like I'm training them on how to. They're more like Web 2.5. They wouldn't be Web 3. The Web 3 guys, I don't teach Web 3 really. So yeah, I don't know. The jobs in Web 3 at the moment are Solidity, Python, all the kind of developer guys, the network and the infrastructure and building guys, on chain, off chain, whatever. But from a commercial sense, yeah, I'd be teaching AR marketing, AR content management, maybe DAO or community management on Discord, smart contracts, that kind of stuff. The basic stuff is available now.
I mean, and this is a very interesting question for me. I mean, I want the answer. That's the reason the question is interesting. How is AI content made?
How's AI content made?
Yeah.
What we're doing right now in class,
Yeah.
we're using ChatGPT to create like scenarios and alternative narratives. So like, for example, I might say, merge two unrelated companies and create a brand new product. So let's say Nike and I don't know, Nike and maybe give me another brand, something completely unrelated. That's
Coca-Cola.
they can't copy Nike and Google, right? And I put it into ChatGPT and we see what it comes up with. So the reason why I'm telling you about this is because we use ChatGPT in class for learning about new things, but I'm worried that they might copy, right? So I give them alternative narratives and making up stuff, and then hypothetically scenarios around brands working together and creating new products in Web3. That's how I use ChatGPT. Then Midjourney we use for creating like pretend fashion collections that may end up as an NFT collection, if that makes sense. So if you're asking me what I'm doing right now using generative AI, we're having fun. Sometimes we do like funny voices, synthesis AI as well. You can sound like a captain from a pirate ship. It's fun stuff. It's content creation, really.
I actually asked about AR content creation. I think you
AI, AR.
It's okay.
I'm
Even that was fun.
AR.
Yeah.
Sorry, AR. Yeah, we use Snap Studio.
Okay.
It's fun. Yeah. But then I know the hardcore guys in the other universities, they're probably like using Unity or I don't know, Unreal Engine. But again, my guys are only retail folks. So yeah.
Got it. But so also we learned that you have also mentored a lot of Web3 startup as a part of your role in the
Yeah.
accelerator. So when you look at a startup, what do you see in them? And to make it more specific, what truly
Yeah.
distinguishes a successful Web3 startup today?
Well, for me, once they understand the infrastructure, currently, had they a vision for the future? And two, I'm very actually quite basic. My Chinese side is like you're either A, solving a problem, or B, adding value. So that's the first thing I think about when the applications come in and we're trying to figure out, we do our benchmark analysis. We look around, okay, is there an ROI on this? Is it instantaneous ROI, or is it something much more in the future? What are brands more likely to adopt, immediately or more times in the future? So there's a lot of factors. But actually recently Outlier Ventures, I hope to be working with them. They're a very interesting accelerator because they're an open metaverse accelerator, open. They're Web3. So they've got like the Farfetch accelerator, they've got Techstars, and they've got Polygon's accelerator as well. And Outlier Ventures are working with open Web3 accelerator programs. So that's really, really fascinating. I'd be more interested in that than, just working on Techstars, or because the whole thing in Web3, right, it's supposed to be open source. We're supposed to be working together and solving problems. So that's kind of, yeah. But also, just to go back to your point there, even when I was in Altada Accelerator program in 2019, one of my retail use cases, one was computer vision, Vert A or Try-On. And, I wasn't going to allow the application because I've been in China for the last 8 years. And, virtual Try-On for me A or Try-On is quite an old technology. I think it's in browser now in JD or Pinduoduo. It's a different, like it comes in the browser, with the Chinese e-commerce. So I didn't think it was very exciting. So I like quite innovative use cases that have value or solve a problem. So yeah.
Got it. And that's clear. I think we also saw a rise in virtual fashion, and I think one of the key event was Decentraland Fashion Week.
Yes,
And
we
a
were there
lot of
last
mainstream brand participated there. And
year.
today, a
Yes.
lot of fashion startups. I would not call it startup, but maybe small fashion houses, boutique houses are coming up. What would be your advice for them to enter this field? Like they are not a Gucci or a Louis Vuitton. They are a very less revenue
Yeah.
generating small boutique. How they can enter, or should they be entering or not today? What are your
Mm.
points on
Well,
this?
yeah. So you have metaverses, as you guys know, and then you have
Yeah.
Web3. So
Yeah.
do we really care about Web3? No. Like if we're like just a regular retailer or brand, I would be dancing in the Web 2.5 marketplace. That means, all your boring 2D e-commerce sites need a serious refresh. So I would probably just say get your 3D modeling in order and clean up your e-commerce. That's what I would do. I mean, whether you want to rock up on a metaverse platform is your business. But I definitely think, for brands, they need to move into this kind of idea of 3D e-commerce, whether it's Web 2 or Web 3, we don't care. That comes much, much later. So yeah, definitely 3D
Got
e-commerce. Yeah.
got it.
And,
Got it.
starting to talk to the customer because they know, the decentralization of the web is coming, and that I know customers want to have more intimate relationships with their brands, but they're not going to do it in Web 2. They'll do it in Web 3. So it's like, I'm okay with, ASOS knowing my bra size, but I'm not okay with ASOS and Amazon and Google knowing my bra size. So I look forward to Web 3 and having deep and intimate relationships with brands and, be
Got
able
it.
to participate in hyper personalization and co-creation because they know who I am, because I'm a really terrible shopper. I want to be able to go into an IRL store, have the whole thing augmented. I don't care if it's in a metaverse, an app, or an IRL. I want the same familiarity around, oh, don't choose that skirt, Paul. It's going to make your butt look big. Here's a suggestion. So yeah, that's how I feel in Web3. But like I said, 3D e-commerce all the way, and virtual
Got
try-ons,
it.
yes, please, for brands.
Got it. I think
Mm,
in the interest of time, this brings to my last question. Today, we
mm,
see a big secondary market for luxury fashion, made be
mm.
sneaker or any apparel. How is the secondary market for virtual apparel today in the space of luxury, and what are your point of views on that? Like,
Well,
in my simple question, can I go and buy that Fortnite Balenciaga avatar today and sell it tomorrow and make money?
we don't know. I actually had this question about so our first NFT is not an NFT that's viable, sellable, tradable yet. Our next ones will be. So I'm like, okay, if I buy, a digital, item from Dr. Robin, and then Dr. Robin gets picked up by Nike, right? Anything I bought from her, in 2022 might be of value. So it really depends about value, scarceability, the publicity. Like my friends buy, they flip NFTs all the time. Like Porsche, for example, I know my kids as well, that they buy like different types of NFTs, or they're in crypto and they flip them the next day. So I don't really know. I think for fashion, secondhand or marketplace, I think it's going to be a thing, definitely. But I don't see it at the moment. It's
Got it.
there. And I know like the fabricant, like fair play to them. They have their digital studio, they have their NFTs, and they have their secondary marketplace. Same with DressX. They want to keep the customer inside the ecosystem, so I guess they can control the value of the asset. Like, for
Got it.
example, I'm not going to buy an NFT that's not from, a famous collection or has a DAO, because
Got
if it has a DAO, it's more likely to keep its value, right? Because the members inside are protecting the assets. But yeah,
got it.
secondary marketplaces are cool. They will be big.
Got it. Got it. Got it. I know I told that was my last question, but I just have one more question. So,
Sure.
today there is certain skill that is required to be a fashion designer. How do you think that skills differ when someone is a virtual fashion designer, which can be a real role in the coming 1 or 2 year?
Okay, tell me that again, because it's a big one. What skills do virtual
So,
designers need? Or
yeah.
Virtual
So
fashion.
how the skill set of a virtual fashion designer is different from let's say a traditional or normal fashion designer today?
Ooh. Well, it depends. I mean, I mm, well, technically, I mean, I suppose if you're coming from, physical fashion, you're working with textiles and pattern making. The process is completely different. I mean, even in terms of like, if you were to create an NFT dress, I mean, you've got like parent NFTs, and then you've got baby NFTs, for the zips and the buttons and all that kind of stuff. And even like, I know my friends now, they're building like a texture library, digital library. I think I think the skills are different, but the process is still the same, if that makes sense. I mean, if you can automate a process, it makes your life more easier. I think being a fashion designer with clothes skills, if you're a traditional fashion designer with clothes skills, I think it's more easier, because you can automate certain types of products, you can reuse, you can even use AI, to augment certain parts of the production process. But I definitely think you still need creativity and imagination, but that's a great question. I really can't answer it that well, but I definitely think they have to merge the two. That's why Phygital is so important for culture
Got
and
it.
for keeping like the old with the new. And Phygital's great for mass adoption as well. Like if we were just doing digital clothes, nobody would buy them. But the fact that there's an actual and tangible item that comes with it gives people a sense of something. So there's a whole fabulous question, by the way. I think I'm going to use it as an exam question.
Got it. Got it. Great.
Yeah, yeah.
That brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for educating us on digital
My pleasure. I
in
hope it
virtual
was,
fashion, and it was
yeah,
amazing having you. Yeah, thank you so much.
you're
Thanks.
welcome, guys.